Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be going over how to perform a transition from one controller to another. In other words, we're going to be doing a segue. And first, let me answer a question that I got from one of the viewers here. And his name is Eslam. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he's asking, will you cover in the next lesson how to perform a segue? I tried, but I failed badly. And he says that I couldn't call performance segue with identifier code or prepare for segue function. And so what he means is that he wants to actually segue from a controller to another, but we don't have a segue because we're not using storyboards in this app that we're building right now. So how do we do this? And the way to do that is to use a push view controller on the navigation controller. And we just push a new controller onto that stack. So let's go into the code and I'm going to demo to you what that looks like. So I'm going to click into an app and then it just transitions from one to another with the app details for the new controller. So let's go into the code and start building that out. And I am going to shrink this a little bit, drag that into the corner and go into the app and I'm going to hit build and run it to see where we are at right now. So as you can see, we have our horizontal scrolly thing here, and we want to enable a click upon one of these tabs here. And the way to do that is to first establish what happens on a selection of an item. So I'm going to go to my featured apps controller here and implement a method called, let's see, collection view, and it is called did select item at index path right there. And I'm just going to do this right now. Print selected and show you what happens upon selecting. So I'm going to hit the title right above here, best new apps, and we get the print statement there. And if I click one of these apps down here, you notice that nothing happens. And the reason for that is because we have a collection view controller as our entire view right now. And inside of each rows are individual collection views. So the problem that we need to fix is we need to know when a specific app inside of one of these cells are clicked. So let's go into our category cell here and implement the same method. So collection view, did select item at index path, and let's just do it here. Print app selected, and then hit run. So doing that, we can detect when an app is selected right there. So you see app selected, and clicking this title, we get selected. So we basically want to transition into a new controller upon app selection and not just the entire row. So let's do this here. Okay. So in featured apps controller for the did selected part, I'm going to transition into a new controller like this. So let's just call it app detail controller and use a dummy view controller for now. And here we'll do this, navigation controller dot push view controller. And here we'll say app detail controller, animated is true. Get rid of that. And I'll show you that instead of using a segue, we just push directly with code. So click, we get app selected. Okay, so click on this label here, we get this new controller, and back we get to that. So to transition from this app into that controller, we want to do this here. So I'm going to create a function called show app detail for app like that. Let's see, okay. And now I'm going to copy and paste this entire block down here. And I'm going to remove this because we don't really need it. And I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to call this function from within one of these cells down here. And first we need our category cell to have access to that featured apps controller. So featured apps controller. Okay. So now category cell has a property called that, and copy. And upon selecting, I want to do this. featured apps controller, show app detail for some kind of app. And we know that the app is actually this. So if let app equals app category, apps, and we'll need index path the item, like so. And I'm gonna take that, paste that in there, use the app like that, and get rid of that semicolon, run. So if I run this right now and click on the app, we won't see the push just yet. So what I mean is clicking on that does nothing, and that's because featured apps controller is not yet set on the category cell. So inside of featured apps controller, we'll look for the method that returns the cell, which is here. So cell for item index path. And we'll just set that to self for featured apps controller. And doing that, probably need to do that here too. There's a bit of duplicated code here, but we're not going to fix that in this video. So click, and we get that. Notice, click, and we get that. So that's pretty good. And now we want to create the app detail controller by just going to new file. So it's file, app detail controller, and import UI kit. Let's just call this class app detail controller. Use a UI collection view controller as our subclass. And here we always want to overwrite view.load and call super view.load like this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the collection view's background color inside of this controller here and call it maybe red just to show you what's going on. So inside of this featured apps controller, I actually want to instantiate this app detail controller and call it this. So app detail controller, and this needs a collection view layout. And we'll just create that layout here, flow layout, and set that there. And running that now, we'll see that upon the click of an app, we will transition into this red background collection view controller like that. So pretty straightforward and pretty easy. And notice that we didn't really need any segues at all. We just simply instantiate our controller ourselves, and then we pass that upon pushing the view controller onto our navigational stack. So let's now go ahead and start building out what the header looks like. And what I mean is this section here is actually a header, and these are what I would call cells. So going back to our app here, we want to start building out a header that looks like this. Let's see, this here. And it's actually pretty easy. And I'm going to do that right now. So let's go ahead and turn this red color to white color. And let's start building out our header. So typically what I do is I create my header, call app detail header, and I want to subclass this to a maybe a cell. And headers can be cells, it doesn't really matter. But instead of overriding those init frames, so what I mean is we have to override this init frame method and call super init frame like that. And then what I typically do is call a method called setUpViews. And in here we also have to override this required thing right there. Okay. And because I don't want to do all this every time I want to create a cell, I just simply call a base cell class. So like that, and then we have that. And so we have a function called setUpViews here. And now I can just simply override this class by just subclassing this as a base cell and just override setUpViews like that, calling super setUpViews. So now I have this template. I don't need to rewrite all of this code. Basically saves me a lot of time and saves me a lot of headache without having to type too much. So okay, what goes in our header? So the first thing that goes inside the header is this image view right here. And I'm going to create that by saying, okay, let image view is of type image view. And in here, I'll create it by creating an image view like that. setting the content mode to let's see, scale, aspect fill, return that image view like that, paren. And here I'm going to add it onto the view by adding a subview, image view. And let's just do this for now. Okay, so instead of checking this right now, I'm just going to set the background color equal to UI color blue color to verify that I can get my header onto the screen first. So first, before the header shows up inside of our collection view, we need to return it as a view for our header. So collection view, go to the very bottom and look for a view for supplementary element of kind, like this. And I'm just going to say header equals collection view, DQ, kind, and this will be header ID. Let's see, header ID, index path, let's see, path, and we can downcast this as our app detail header, like this. And then we'll return our header, very simple. So before all this works, we need to first create a header ID. And let's do that up here. Header ID equals header ID. And now we need to register this header onto our collection view, like this. And we'll say app detail header. Here we'll say UI collection element kind section header, and this will be the header ID that we just made. So now that we have this, if we run this application, we won't see our header just yet, and that's because of one thing. So we haven't actually returned a size for that header, and let's just return the size here. So you notice how we don't have our layout methods, and that's because we haven't yet conformed to UI collection view delegate flow layout, and now we can specify the size for our header. So that is this method here. It says size of header view in the specified section, and we do that by returning a CG size make view frame width, and this will be approximately 170. And I think we need a override. Nope, not yet. So let's hit run, click on an app, and then we see our blue header, which is this header here. So pretty easy, not too bad. And now I want to add this image view onto my header subview. And I'm just going to do this, add subview, image view. And we need to add constraints to put it onto the screen. So let's just do it the long way right now. I'm going to show you an easier way of doing this. So let's do visual format. Let's see, open close bracket, and there's layout format options. And we'll do nil, and for V0, we're doing this. So V0 is our image view. Okay, I think we need paren here, and we should be good. So paren. Okay, I'm gonna copy that whole thing. And let's see, use V right there. And remove this blue color that I don't want. And so, before all of this works, we actually have to disable this translates auto resizing mask property there. And notice how I've added the image onto our view, but because we haven't set an image yet, the image doesn't show up. So what I mean is image view dot let's see, background color goes UI color. This is use yellow color. Just to show you what this looks like right now. So click, we get the image view, which is the entire yellow background right here. Not too bad. And let's figure out how to set the image on this detail header, right? So basically, I want to set this image on to the header like that. So first, we need access to the application that we're clicking on, and that is going to be passed in to this app detail controller upon the push. So I'm going to go to that push section right here, push view controller. And basically, I want to set the app like this. So app detail controller dot app equals app. And that app is being passed in right here. And basically I want to create a property on app detail controller called app. And let's just use did set like this. And then upon setting that app, we call navigation item dot title. Let's see, item dot title is app dot name. Pretty good. And running that, we don't yet see the title upon click yet, and that's because, well, actually we do. Let's see, app. Yep, that's pretty good. And now we want to set the image upon the header being shown. And so let's just create a property on our app detail header called app as well. Let's see, app, and make it an optional. Did set. And so here's what we're going to do. We want to set this image view image like this. Image name something, right? And that will be this app image name. And we need it to be a actual string, not an optional string, but an actual string. So we can do this, or we can do it the safe way by doing this safer unwrap, which is always better. You don't want to constantly use these bangs, because if any of those properties are nil, you will get a crash and your users will be very frustrated. Also, your boss is going to be frustrated with you. So let's just use that and use the safely unwrapped image name like this. And running into that, we will not yet see any change yet because we haven't set the app on our header. So header app equals app. Having done that, we get our app, and then we get this entire image filling up the entire header. So I actually want to see the collection view scroll up and down, and we do that by using always bounce vertical equals true. Setting that makes me get a better feel for what the collection view is actually doing. So let's put this image in that top left corner right there. And the easier way of doing that is just say, okay, 14 pixels from the left, and making this 100, and getting rid of this pipe right here, and 14 pixels from the top for the vertical axis, and using a height of 100. So this is width 100 and height 100 for vertical and horizontal. And so running that, we no longer get a supersized app image view, but instead we get this nice little square box on the top left of the header. So a couple of things that I need to probably do is to set the corner radius to like 16, and also mask to bounds is true. Okay. And having done that, I will run my application one more time to show you that my app right here is showing up with a corner radius, and everything looks pretty good. Okay. So let's see what we have here. Okay. Trying to figure out why I have this rectangle gray bar up there, but let's just keep it there for now, I guess. And okay, now we want to do a couple of things with the header. We want to include this segmented control down here, and then maybe possibly the name label right here, and maybe this buy button with the $3.99. And let me tell you, I'm not going to do that entire layout. I want to just put this segmented controller on the bottom to get a feel for where where the layout is going to sort of look like. And by that, I am going to create my segment controller down here. So let's do segmented control, and this will be UI segmented control. This is create here, SC equals UI segmented controller. And here we'll use items of, I think it's details, reviews, and related. So that's good. And we'll just return that SC variable like that. And we will need to add it onto the subview hierarchy by using add subview. Okay, so now I can do this entire bit again for the segmented control. Let's just remove the yellow color. But I don't really like doing this too much because typing out this is maybe something I would consider stressful for me as a programmer. So I want to make this a lot easier for me and for the rest of us that are watching this video by condensing all that code into a very simple helper function. And I do that by simply creating an extension called UI view like that. And basically I have a function that I always use called add constraints with format. And this takes in a format string like this and let's just add a function like there. And this will be a variable UI view array like that. And basically what I want to be doing is I want to add this entire thing but make it a lot shorter. So let's take this as our format that is passed in here. And then now we need this views dictionary thing down here. And essentially I want to condense this whole call up here to just say add constraints with format. And I want this to still say 14 from the edge and v0 for 100. And in here I just want to do image like this. So basically the question is how do I transform this dictionary into just this view right here? And it's very easy by just creating a views dictionary like this, string UI view like that, and then we'll pass this into this views dictionary here. So views dictionary, and everything is almost working except where we need to actually input these image views into this views dictionary by doing this. For index view in views dictionary or enumerate like this, we can say let key equals v index, and we'll say views dictionary key is equal view. And while we're here, we'll set this property as false because we always want this to happen when we use constraints anyways. And basically I can remove all of this here and we can just copy and paste and use this as the vertical constraint as well. So I'm going to blow all this away. And now I can add constraints very easily by just using this function here, and we get the same thing, right? And so this segmented control, I actually want to add it beneath the app icon image view here and just expand it slightly like this. So the very, very easy way of doing this now that I have this convenient method is to just do some simple constraints. And let's just do that. I'm going to blow away that as well. Let's see, format. I'm going to do this. Okay, 40 pixels from the left and 40 pixels from the right. I will say that is where my segmented controller will live on the horizontal axis. And then for the vertical constraints, I'll do this. V0, give it a height of 34 like that. And specify 8 pixels from the bottom like that. So this means that it will be hugging the bottom edge by 8 pixels, and then it has 34 pixels in height. Right, so that was pretty easy. And now I want to actually change the color to this gray color. And the App Store has this gray tint on it. So let's just do this right now. Tint color, right color, maybe dark gray color. And then we'll say selected segment index is 0. So now that I run this application here, we get selected index is 0, and then we get this darker tint color. And if I wanted to create the name label, I can just do this here, name label, UI label, let's see, label, let label, equal UI label. Label that text. Well, let's just do test for now. And return label. Let's see, paren, label that, let's see, font maybe? UI font, system font of 16. And then now we add that subview into our view hierarchy. And let's just do this right now. So now that we have this name label constructed, we want to add it to the right of the image view. And we do that very, very simply by saying this. So 8 pixels to the right of the image view, we will specify v1. And this v1 will span the entire horizontal axis to the right side of the view. And here we'll just say name label. Very easy. And in terms of the verticality of the name label, we'll say this, add constraints, v, and the top, we'll say 14 pixels from the top, and then give it a height of, let's say 20 for now, see what that looks like. And this will say name label. Running that, we'll see what we get. Hopefully something that looks okay. And we get test right there. So that looks pretty decent. And in order to set the actual name of that title, we just go to the app setter here and say name label dot text equal app dot name, run, and we see that the title for the app now says Disney Build It Frozen. So there's some additional text below, like the category and I believe the company name of the app. But because that's pretty straightforward, I'm not going to go into how to create that right now. I think the remaining view to add onto this header is that buy button on the right. So let's just make that really fast by saying buy button, UI button, and let button equals UI button, type system, maybe, and we'll just return that button for now. So button, I'm going to set the title to buy, and this will be normal state. And now that we have the properties set up, we'll add it as a subview, and then we'll figure out what the constraints should be down here. So use a constraints of horizontal, and we'll say, okay, v0 has a horizontal width of, let's say 60, and it is 14 pixels from the right edge like that. Finally, set the buy button as the view. And for the vertical constraints, we say v, and let's just give it a height of maybe 32. I think that's probably good. And for the bottom, we actually need to be above this segmented control. So we can do this. Actually, I think we can do just this. So just copy this here, and we'll do yeah, I think that should work. Let's just see what we get. So v1 and name label, that, comment that out. I actually am curious if that would work. So click that, and we get the buy button that's all the way up there. Let's see, 32, name label, what do we get here? Okay, so that is not working out so well. So some of these constraints are pretty tricky to do, I guess, when recording. And I'm going to do this very simply by saying this here, and we'll use 30 pixels from the bottom edge. Run that, see what we get. Okay, from there. Well, that's a lot closer to the area that we want to be in. So I'm going to raise that by, let's say, 44 pixels from the bottom. And I'm going to set the border on it by doing this border color. And this will be something that I just remembered, which is these values right here. Basically, these are the blue value for, it's the RGB values for the blue tint color that Apple defaults the blue to. So this is 255, and this will be 1. We need to use CG color. And finally, set the border width to 1, and also set the corner radius to roughly 5. I think that looks okay. But we won't know until we see it right now, which looks like that. It seems like we need to push this a few more pixels up. So let's just push it maybe another 10 pixels up. And that looks okay, I suppose. And how about we also change the font of the button by doing this. Title label dot font equals UI font bold system font of 14. And I have a feeling that that is not enough, so I'm going to push it from the bottom a couple of more pixels and see where we are. So that looks, pretty decent. If I had more time, I would go into more detail and look at this entire composition in Photoshop and actually match up the pixels. But that is good for us for now. And okay. So remember, this actual price for that app is actually $3.99. So I'm going to make that change right here and say this. So if let price equals app.price string value, we'll say buy button dot set title to the $sign, and then we'll use price like that. And we'll use normal state. Having done that, we get our app, and then we get our price like this. And when we click on that, we get this little nice highlight. Okay. And the final thing I wanted to add on the very bottom is this divider line view, just to kind of tie up loose ends here by just doing this divider line view. UI view. Let's see, let's get that V in there. Let view equals UI view. View.background color is UI color. I tend to use this white alpha initializer of 0.4, 0.4, and return the view like that. So this is this horizontal divider line right there. And it actually spans this entire width by doing this. So add subview, divider line view. At the very bottom, I do add constraints with format of, you guessed it, V0 from left to right, and this will be divider line view. And for the vertical constraints, we'll do this, V, and we'll omit the first pipe, and V0, 0.5, and close the bracket, pipe, divider line view. Run that, and you'll see that the line appears at the very bottom. Perhaps it's a little thin right now, but it is there as I scroll. So what I mean is if I bump this up by hitting Command 2, you see this horizontal line right there. And that's pretty good. I probably want to remove that title at the very top, because if you notice, the App Store actually doesn't set the title on the nav bar, and we want to match as close as we can to what the App Store looks like. So pretty good, pretty close. And if we go back to our actual app right here, we are missing a couple of things here. So we're missing this horizontal screenshot view, or this cell right here, and we're missing this description cell along with the information cell at the very bottom. And this is something that I'll cover in the next video. It's basically accessing our REST service again to fetch these couple of properties and to show it onto the cell. So that is going to be a more interesting aspect of app building and figuring out how to communicate with your server upon trying to fetch more details. And we'll go through that next, but this is pretty much it for this video, and hopefully you've learned how to segue or to segue with code using push view controller. And you've probably learned a bit too much on how to lay out subviews and using constraints. But that technique I use is really helpful for me to kind of shortcut the process of creating constraints and making it easier for me. I mean, if you like self-inflicted pain and self-torture, maybe that's your deal. So keep doing that and you should be good as well. So hopefully you like this video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And make sure to ask me any questions if you do have any, so that I can, kind of gauge how far you guys are coming along. All right, enjoy your day and goodbye.